Hey, welcome back to another Black City Coffee vlog. In this video, talk about fluid bed roasters. I had all these other topics chosen, but you guys asked questions, so, you know, cool. Fluid bed roasters. So what is a fluid bed roaster? Okay, so fluid bed roasters rely on high airflow to keep the beans aloft and rotating in the roaster chamber. Because the beans lose density as they roast, to maintain proper bean rotation, these machines require very high airflow early in a roast and a declining amounts of airflow as the batch progresses. Most fluid bed roasters do not include a separate cooling bed. Instead, room temperature air is passed through the roasting chamber at the end of the batch to cool the beans. This system is not ideal because the chamber surfaces are hot, which inhibits the cooling process. Many users of fluid bed roasters buy and use separate cooling bins. Advantages: fluid bed roasters are affordable and reliable, have a small footprint, and pose little risk of bean surface burning. A disadvantage: excessive airflow damages flavor and decreases fuel efficiency. The machine operator must compromise between the gas and the airflow settings desired for optimum flavor and those required for proper bean rotation. All right, so that's from Rao's book. It sounds like I have a fluid bed roaster. My little sample roaster that you guys saw me use a while back. It's basically convection type of roasting, meaning like you're using hot air to roast it, not a combination of hot air and maybe conduction, like contact with a hot surface like a hot drum. However, with that definition, the beans are still contacting some sort of chamber, right, that is hot, right? So there is basically a little bit, I guess, less control. Yep, less control. And I think another definition or another thing that was said about fluid bed roasters was that, you know, it's not going to follow the typical drum roasting curve. Maybe roasts are a little bit longer, may run the course of baking, which is what, you know, the definition said there, which is like kind of losing that sort of pop and acidity that you would get from, say, a typical roast from a drum roaster. Okay, so in the end, when I picked this book up, I think, pretty early on, before I even had my little 1K, and I was reading about all the types of roasters and what types of roasters that I would like to step into, and that's specifically why I was always going to get a drum roaster. One, because it mimicked what they did commercially, like at Starbucks or something. And that's why I got a hot top. Even though that was a single drum roaster, it mimicked that huge drum roaster that I saw in Washington all those years ago when I went to the friggin' Roasters. What is it, like a Roasters? Shoot, what's it called? Roasters Reserve. All right, and I was just inspired, blown away by that setup with a cooling tray, right? Yeah, the little sample roaster that I have as well is also, it cools itself. It sucks in air from the outside and just kind of like cools it. And I'll show it to you. If I'm not mistaken, a fluid bed roaster. Coffee beans go in there. They're like a cyclone in there with hot air. When I discharge the green, they don't cool quite completely. So remember when I told you guys about like how coffee is still roasting or cooking as you drop the coffee? So same thing with this, because there's not a dedicated like function to cool these beans after they're discharged here, after they're dropped. And you can feel that. You can feel the heat coming off of this thing. And when I put them in a bag, I should actually take an extra step if I was being very serious about it, because I really just use this for personal use at this point. I should put them in a tray and try to cool them down as quickly as possible, because they're still going to be roasting. And so, you know, potentially if I wanted to do a medium, it's going to be a little bit darker. And if I wanted to do a light, and if I'm not able to control every single parameter on that, it could be a little bit darker than I would maybe like. I don't know. My opinion on them is that they're still friggin' useful as hell. Like, I mean, I got that thing for a reason, to roast smaller batches. For myself personally, I don't like dipping into my own inventory to roast coffee for myself. It's insanely easy. You just like hit a button basically and let it do its thing. It's not going to be something that you would like sell somebody, but it's definitely something where you could investigate coffee a little bit more. You can have a little bit more intimate relationship with coffee as a home roaster. But as a fluid bed roaster, and if I was doing this, since my big plan is to create a business from this, that just was never going to be a part of my equation. There's plenty of people that do it though, so it's not. It's just my preference. It's like it's how much control I wanted. It's how much. It's the relationship that I wanted with the roaster. And in the end, like I say, is like, and what I've learned is it's just machine operation. So you just get to choose, like, what kind of machine do you want to deal with if you're going to be the one operating it. You don't necessarily have to be married to this machine type. Like, I think it's still cool to be able to educate yourself and go from machine to machine, different types, and learn how they work and learn how they roast coffee. And you can get probably super high quality coffee from every single one of these machines, whether it's drum, whether it's gas, whether it's fluid bed, whether it's, what are the other ones in here? Like single wall, double wall, drums, convection, conduction, indirectly heated drums, and who knows what they're going to come up with in the future. Like that little machine there is easily, I mean, for all of its coolness, like it's so small. The only annoying part is like setting off the smoke alarm and not being able to just keep it here and roast here. You know, I thought it was going to be like the most convenient thing ever. It's not. So that's like the only hang up really, and not having like complete control like I'm used to with my drum roaster, but that was to be expected. But yeah, it's not like you can't create awesome coffee. And I'll repeat this again. This is Clatch's rule: is like great coffee is not made at the machine; it's made on the cupping table, meaning that you know how to clearly identify certain traits that are in great coffees, and then go and manipulate your machine to do that. But if you can't do that, if you can't do it on the cupping table, and you can't actually recognize what's good, what's bad, what's under, what's over, what's flat, what's lively, what's not, all that stuff, what's sweet. I didn't know how to identify sweet in an espresso until this year. You know, like, so you have to kind of be able to like learn to identify what is good first. Like, I'm in the wedding photography business, and like if we don't understand what a decent and good photo is, how are we ever going to reach that? I don't care what kind of camera you have. I don't care what kind of processing hardware you have, software you have, how many years you've been shooting weddings. I don't care any about that. If you don't know how to like capture a clean, decent photo, because we run into this all the time, and I'm like, nah, you're out of here. So that's rule number one. Okay, cupping table, learning how to identify what makes coffee great. Okay, for you. And then I could add that little asterisk, like what makes coffee great for you, right? Because if we're all at home, there's that home scale. If you want to take it to that next level and be like winning awards and shit like that, like then you got to go to that level. Okay, so that's my opinion on them. In my opinion, fluid bed roasters are just another machine to roast coffee, and it's a preference. It's literally just a personal preference. So if you have one, and most of us are like, when we ask questions, we want validation. Like, I would urge you, if that's the machine you have, like pose a challenge to yourself and say, what is the best coffee that I can make with this machine? And that's what I do here. Okay, so I hope that was helpful. That was fun. That was a cool question. It challenges me to kind of be like, what do I think about that? I don't know. And I think it's fun. It's all in good fun, and have fun, with your roasting, whatever type of machine you have. Okay. Have fun. Coffee is for everyone. All right. We'll see you in the next video tomorrow. Bye.